All right, guys, we are on to our next slide today. So I'm going to go over slide 3, whatever slide 3 is on your presentation. Remember, you do not have to go in this order that I am doing these directions in, but I just want to give the directions in the order of your slides so you know where to find them, okay? All right, so this video, I'm going to explain your slide 3, okay? So whatever your slide 3 is, whether you're doing an experiment, demonstration, or research project or invention, I'm going to go through them in that order with you. Okay, so if you're doing an experiment or investigation, your next slide, which is slide 3, will be your procedure. Okay, so it's going to look like this. It's just a blank slide with procedure on top. Your procedure is all about what steps you did with your experiment. Okay, you're talking about all of your process of your experiment. How did you set it up? How did you make a reliable experiment? How did you set up your different tests to test your hypothesis? Okay, so that should all be in your procedure. Okay, so that is going to be your slide that you're going to work on for that part if you're doing an experiment. Okay, if you're doing a demonstration, your next slide will be called diagrams / charts. Okay, so with your demonstration or with your research project, you should have some sort of visual. Okay, right here in the orange, it says visual information that helps demonstrate your understanding of your topic. So this could be a picture that you draw. Maybe you draw a diagram and you take a picture of it and you upload it here. It could be an image that you find on an article that you read. Just make sure you cite your source if you're doing that. So it can be really any chart or diagram that helps your research project and help people learn from your research project, okay? So like I said, if you take an image off of the internet, you got to cite the source because you're using that person's information. So if you are using a picture, you can either cite the source right on the slide or you can cite it eventually when we'll do our works cited page. Just make sure if you find an image, you might want to list it here on this slide just until we get to that works cited page. Okay. You also want to include any supporting data that you find in your research, okay? So this, again, could be visual information that will help understand your topic, okay? An example here is if you are demonstrating how lava flows out of a volcano, you can provide graphics of what's happening inside a volcano or where would volcanoes be found on the map of the world. So maybe you could do a picture of the Ring of Fire and you could talk about how volcanoes develop in that Ring of Fire area because those tectonic plates are constantly moving. So any pictures here that can support your research, and you can do more than one picture if you would like. You can also add another slide if you like. If you have a ton of pictures that really help support your information, you can always add an extra slide if they don't fit on to this one slide. Okay. All right. Now, if you're doing an invention, your next slide is the process. Okay. So this is huge for your project because you really want to talk about the process of how maybe you had empathy towards someone, or how you wanted to create a project to better someone's life. Okay. So you're explaining the steps of creating your invention, and that could be your very first step. What you're going to do is you're going to define that process. So explain the steps you went through to make your invention. This kind of reminds me a lot of the design thinking process we did with Mrs. Harmon. And when we did our natural disaster structures, you had to really brainstorm and research the best topic or the best way to build your design. So this is kind of very similar to that project, okay? You can include pictures here of what occurred along the way. So maybe your first prototype was a complete fail. Okay, that's okay. Make sure you list that here because we want to see the whole process of what you came up with your invention. Okay, so while you're building your invention, make sure you take pictures along the way, maybe what it first started like, and then you made some changes, take another picture, and that can all be in this process slide right here. I think that would really add a lot to your project. So don't forget to take pictures as you're building your invention. Okay. This is a big one too. You will need to work out any bugs that might occur when building it. So that kind of brings me back to the epic fails, right? So hopefully you don't get it right the first time and you have to make it better, because that's really when your invention shines and when you learn a lot is when you maybe your first prototype didn't work and then you made it better. Okay, that's really when the magic happens with that. Okay. All right, so today we're focusing on those orange highlights. And let me know if you have any questions. Remember, I'm happy to meet with you over Google Meet if you have any questions on your project, or you can always email me. All right, guys, I'm excited to see this next slide with your project.